Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Scientist Reverse Grid League tonight, here in the Einstein League, in beautiful Italy. It's not Imola, it is Monza, the high-speed track, the Temple of Speed, here tonight with 16 drivers on the grid, a few reserves in, but that doesn't change the fun. They course, turn 1 and 2, the chicane, very tricky at the start. The next chicane coming up, even more tricky, because if you hit it wrong you just jump over the curb. So let's say how prepared these guys are with their setups and the strategy call they make on the tires, and possibly saving their wings and not to pit on the first lap. The weather is absolutely beautiful. The sky is blue, no clouds seen, just beautiful sun, as the fans are cheering in the F1 Paddock Club, which is highly fucking overrated. Everyone is getting in the setups at the moment. You see the pit box of Rob, Eskimo and Wispen there of the Mercedes and Red Bull, and you can see that Rob is driving on his own tonight for Mercedes, while Eskimo has his teammate Wispen with him. And in a few seconds we are on the grid for our formation lap. I hope everyone is fine and healthy in these difficult times. That's the most important thing. And everyone has set in the strategies. As always, we will take a look at the whole track map so you can follow your favorite driver. We will also have telemetry on, and we scroll through all the data the game presents us in position changes, pit stops, tire choice, and of course penalties. Speaking of tires, we have Harvey and Durdan starting from the first row on soft tires, Ryan Van Doom on mediums, Zoo in P4 on soft, Spoon on mediums. It's a huge mix of softs and mediums, but you can say that the top 10 is included by 4 medium drivers. So we have 4 medium drivers in the top 10, 6 on softs, and at the back we have 4 mediums, only 2 softs. Eskimo and Takunya are using softs in P12 and P15. So Harvey is starting on pole position in front of Durdan, Ryan Van Doom, Professor Zoo, Spooner, Sebastian, Walter B. Casto, Moshe, Wispen, Scientist, Eskimo and P12. Behind him are Nick, Rob, Takunya and Paul. As they're all coming up to Ascari, we will take a quick look at the standings in the Einstein League. In the Drivers' Championship right now, let me see if we have an update here. There is the update. So Professor Zoo is still in the lead. He has 300 points. Casto in P2 at the moment with 243. So it's around a 60-point gap. Only 2 points behind Casto is Walter B with 241. Scientist behind with 216. So Scientist will try to close the gap to the top 3, while Casto and Walter B have to try to close the gap to Professor Zoo. In the constructor standings, it's much closer. Haas, where Zoo is driving for, is in the lead with 345 points. P2 Williams 339, so only 6 points different. Another 7-point difference to Alpine in P3 with 332, so only 7 points behind Williams. And then 319, only 13 points behind, is McLaren, and 299 is Aston Martin. So the gap between P1 and P5 in the constructors' standings is 46 points. That's bloody nothing. So let's see how this race plays out. The red lights are out and the boys are starting. The lead, Durlan trying to take the outside, but Harvey covering the inside, going into turn 1 in P1 staying there for the moment. Durdon and Professor Zoo having a little hick-hack there. Zoo slightly on the grass, but he's up to P3. And Casto and Spooner DNF'd. Oh, Wisben is involved there too. So Wisben, Casto and Spooner are probably involved in that incident. Casto and Spooner are out of the race. A huge blow to Casto's chances to a championship. Of course, it's what called safety car, not to mention. But yeah, it seems like Wisben has no damage to his wing. But yeah, the damage is done for Casto and Spooner, for both of them. They're out on the first lap. The safety car is out. And let's take a look at all the guys who are running soft tires right now. It's Harvey, Durdon, Zoo, Sebastian. The top 4 are running soft, and then Moshe in P8, and Eskimo and Dacunia in P11 and 12. Let's see if the soft runners are coming into the pits. Because normally under a safety car, especially here at Monza on that high-speed straight, you have to pit. And if you pit now, you will make until the end on medium. So Harvey is pitting. Durdon is not pitting. Interesting. So all the guys on softs are pitting, but also a few guys on mediums. Ryan Van Doom is pitting, Nick is pitting, Eskimo's staying now. Oh my god, a lot of guys are in the pits. That's almost the whole field. So it seems like the only one on mediums who's staying out at the moment is Paul and maybe Wisben. Yeah, Wisben's staying out. He's slowing down a lot, maybe because of the delta. Or he just wants to stay last. I don't know. It's looking pretty interesting what he's doing here. He's moving to the side. That's interesting. So he wants to be last. I don't know what's that about, but it is what it is. You all saw it. Reasons behind these things maybe unquestioned. Durdon in P1 because he didn't pit. Eskimo the same. From P11 to P2 on soft because he didn't pit. Same for Paul, who started on mediums, who's still out on track. And after him, everyone pitted. Sebastian, the only one who pitted for hard tires. Every other medium guy switched to softs. So everyone who's watching right now, feel free to use the comment section to ask questions, to cheer for your favorite driver, whatever you would like to do. Just feel free to comment. Every comment is welcomed. So Wisben seems to have huge issues. He's still in last, but he has a gap of 14 seconds to the guys here. Maybe he had a technical issue. Oh, Paul overtook Eskimo because he pitted. Okie fucking dokie, we got that. Yeah, and Paul, he sacrificed his position to put on the softs now to have one lap fresher softs than all the other medium guys who have pitted for them. Wisben is also coming in now. Maybe that was a strategy to do the same as Paul. Will probably go on to the softs too. They will be out behind the safety car for at least this lap, and he gets his wing change, so there was wing damage. They will stay behind the safety car at least for lap 3. That means the race could possibly resume on lap 4, which means 10 laps on mediums, and that's absolutely doable. And that's only the case if no safety or virtual safety car will come out, which is, well, not that high of a chance, especially here in Monza, especially after restart when everyone is going down into turn 1 and maybe have not warmed up their tires properly, not probably. So Wisben is closing the gap to the pack right now, which is coming up to Ascari at the moment, and the safety car will come in. So if Wisben times it correctly, he has warm tires at the end of the pack, just like Paul. Walter beat DNF behind the safety car? What the frick is going on? He just DNF'd behind the safety car. And Wisbin is burning the fuel, but the bad thing is for him, he won't be behind the pack at the restart. So we couldn't see Walter be there. So he DNF'd in Ascari, and Wisbin, he didn't make it. Restart now, but Durdan, who's in the wrong gear, changing it, now in the right gear, using his ERS. Eskimo's coming. Eskimo's coming down the inside, backing off for the moment. Few position changes here. Nick overtook Sebastian. He's on soft, Sebastian hard, so that was probably the only call he had to make. Yeah, Wisbin is 4 seconds behind the pack, so that didn't play out the right way for him. Harvey and Professor Zoo, the two guys in the top 5 who have mediums on, and Nick just spun after making contact with Professor Zoo's rear end. Harvey overtook Eskimo, who's up to P2, and then we already have a gap of 1.6 seconds to Sebastian now, who's under attack from Professor Zoo, both using, not using any more ERS. Zoo stays behind for the moment, and a compromised scientist line who lost the position against Ryan Van Doom, who overtook him there, who saw the gap and took it. So scientist down to P7 because of that. Ryan Van Doom and scientist both on soft. Ryan Van Doom going a little bit deep into Parabolica. Scientist getting the position back with Ryan Van Doom right in the slipstream. Both using ERS to the fullest, but the slipstream is with Ryan Van Doom. He goes down the inside and he will probably make it. Side by side, inside for Ryan Van Doom, and he gets the 6 for him. And Harvey just got P1 against Durdan. Professor Zoo overtook Eskimo. So that's Harvey P1, Durdan P2, Zoo in P3, and Eskimo now in P4, who has Sebastian behind him. Still on, of course, still on hard tires. The Kunich is over to Paul for P8. Oh, Ryan Van Doom went a little bit wide out of Lesmo 2. Immediately losing the position to scientists, and as that went down, Rob DNF from this race, and that means we have another safety car, and that's happy days for all the medium and hard runners at the moment, and also for all the soft runners. I think everyone will come into the pits now, and we will see a few double stacks maybe. Durdan almost, Durdan almost overtaking Harvey, but Harvey didn't even pit. Harvey and Zoo stay out on their mediums. But everyone, Scientist is not pitting, and Paul's also not pitting. Whisper and Nick also staying. Oh, a few guys staying out. That surprised me. Only half of the grid is pitting. So Durdan pits for mediums. Eskimo 2. Okay. Sebastian softs, Secunia soft, Ryan Van Doom of course softs, and Moshe, he double stacked with Ryan Van Doom, probably softs, yeah, of course. Why would you put on mediums now if the safety car's coming in, and at the end of lap 7 he's starting in lap 8? That means 6 laps on softs, which is beautiful. But yeah, they will have the reasons for it. Harvey is still in P1 because he didn't pit. Professor Zoo now in P2, going for track position, as did Scientist, Paul, Wisbin, and Nick, who's now back up to P6. That safety car was an absolute blessing for him after he spun, making contact with Professor Zoo out of the second chicane. And now he's back into P6, and Moshe is now the only one who has to close the gap to the pack. But I think that won't be an issue. Around Parabolica, he will probably have But safety car will stay out, at least for this lap and maybe for lap 7 too. Oh, Luke Betts, thank you very much. I didn't have that on mine. Eskimo and Durdan, they didn't pit under the first safety car, so they start on soft and have to go to mediums. Thank you for that. I completely forgot about that. I was talking about that for like 2 minutes straight. Well, brain just shut off in the meantime. Oh, Eskimo's coming in again, and he's going for softs now. He was in P10, I think, so he's only losing 2 positions, but he will be on fresh softs, and he will get his penalty removed, which helps him too. Moshe, the only one now with penalties, with a 5-second penalty, probably for speeding in the pit lane. Take a look at the position changes for the moment. Scientist, Paul and Nick are the ones who gained the most positions, and if you want to call him like the losers right now, are Durdan, who lost 5 positions, and Ryan Van Doom, who lost 7 positions. Everything else is pretty mixed. Win 2, lose 2, it's not a big deal. Oh, Eskimo, no, he didn't win it, my mistake. I thought he had a moment, didn't happen. And safety car's probably coming in at the end of lap 7, so we'll resume racing. The start of lap 8, which means we have a 6-lap sprint race. We're staying on here with the tires, so you see who has an advantage and who has not. Scientist probably the one, together with Paul, Wispen and Nick, who have a good advantage on those medium runners in front. Durdan in P7 on fresh mediums, but I think the softs are still good to go and better than the mediums right now. But we'll see what the restart brings. Harvey is making the pace. Oh, and he's doing it. That's an early restart. Let's see if he catches the safety car. Oh, severe collision between Durdan and Sebastian. That was a beautiful restart by him. 7/10s ahead of Professor Zoo. And there's a big gap here. Durdan has a 1.9 second gap to Nick, so he took a big fat nap. And the top 6 are going through the first chicane safely. Nothing happening here, but Paul is really close to Scientist. Only 0.2 of a second. Not many position changes at the moment. Here comes one. Sebastian against Durdan on the inside. That's Lesmo 1. That's beautiful. That's a gain place. And Sebastian now on softs instead of hards. They probably feel a lot better than these shitty hards before. But Sebastian Durdan both with 5 seconds to their name after collision under safety car conditions. And D'Cunha is really close behind Durdan now. They're jumping on board with him. He's on the attack from Ryan Van Doom too. Using ERS, Durdan did the same. So D'Cunha is not gaining a lot. Scientist and Wisben are very close together here. Only 0.3 of a second. Going down the main straight. Paul is at risk here, losing the position against Scientist. He goes down the inside. He leads the corner and he makes it. Paul backs off for the moment. Really close battle here between P3 and P6. Oh, we have someone going down the order. It's D'Cunha. It's yellow flag sector 1. Unfortunately, we didn't see what happened here. His wing looks fine. Maybe he went over the curb. Maybe he was pushed a little bit wide. You never know. But Roy Harvey is already 1.5 seconds ahead of Professor Zoo himself. Is 1.6 ahead of Scientist, which makes it pretty comfortable for those leading 2 guys. to just race their race. The scientist has to make up ground to get into the DRS of Professor Zoo, because he's under attack by Paul, Lisbon and Nick, and they will all have DRS on scientist. But he can't close that gap for now. Durden now in last position in P12. And I think we will now see few overtakes. Harvey with the fastest lap, but that doesn't matter. P3 to P5 for the moment. Paul goes for it. It's no DRS at the moment. I thought it would be online by now. Wisbon tapping scientist a little bit, but not too much. Durden is pitting, probably damage to his wing. So Paul is in P3. He thinks he's a lot faster than scientist, and he thinks that he can close the gap to Professor Zoo. And indeed, he's doing it. He's under a second to Professor Zoo now. That's the most important thing, to get the DRS. Now he's out of it. Oh, it's a very close call. He's still out of DRS. So scientist, Wisbon, and no Nick. Nick is 2.5 behind that group. So let's see if... Oh, Wisbon going for scientist here. Down the inside and making the overtake. Very clean racing by both. Wisbon P4. Paul still P3, and he's within DRS of Professor Zoo right now. That means he can save his ERS a little bit. 20%. Zoo on 45. Wisbon has a lot. Over 60%. So Paul needs at least half a second to Wisbon, which he has. And just use the DRS on Zoo to gain, to close the gap, and to save a little bit of ERS. But he's using his ERS now. Just don't use it. You're safe. But, yeah, you can't hear me, of course. Sebastian is really close behind Ryan Van Doom. He's now side by side, and he's leading the corner, making the move. P7 for Sebastian. Nice overtake. Time to perfection with DRS. Excuse me. Ryan Van Doom is glued to Sebastian's rear end here. Oh, I was saying that. Almost side by side. Oh, he's really glued to his rear end. It's very close racing. Ryan Van Doom will have the DRS now on Sebastian. Coming out of Lesmo 2. Gaining it onto Ascari. Let's see if he goes for the overtake. Sebastian defending it. Ryan Van Doom staying behind intelligently to have it on the main straight and to make it an easy move for him. Paul is getting very close to Zoo now. Harvey is going on to lap 12 of 13. And Paul will probably have the better of Zoo now. With the help of DRS, he's gaining and gaining. I think Zoo won't be mad. He will have the DRS now on Paul if he can stay behind him. Paul P2 now. Professor Zoo P3, Wisbon P4. Scientist Stone P5. No big changes at the back. Ryan Van Doom got Sebastian back on the main straight. And Paul is setting the fastest sector 1, of course, with the help of DRS on the main straight. But still, you have to set a purple sector 1 on lap 12. He's tried to increase the gap to Professor Zoo, which he really does. But with the help of DRS, Zoo will be able to close that gap a little bit more now. But Paul has some good pace now. He needs to nail Ascari and Parabolica to stay safe from Zoo, who's under attack. Oh, this will be so close. Zoo is just within the DRS window of Paul. He is low on ERS. Paul too. Wisbon has more than 45%. We're jumping on board with Wisbon. DRS for him, also for Zoo, but the ERS is at work now. Zoo is defending the inside line. Wisbon on the outside, side by side into turn 1. Oh, and they're not touching. That's beautiful racing, leaving each other Enough space. That's beautiful racing, boys. Paul is clapping his hands because he's just gaining time on them both, increasing the gap. But Wisbin is here for P3. Not to see anyone clap inside for the second chicane. He needs to have the DRS on Paul to defend himself against Professor Zhu. But right now he's out of it. And he will stay out of it. Oh, that will be really close. Yellow flag, sector 2. Who is that? That is Sebastian. Sebastian Bindit. He's down to P9. And Zhu can't gain any further tens on Wisburn. Scientist too far away to make a move. Harvey just coming around Parabolica for the win at Monza for Ferrari. Grazie ragazzi, tutti frutti. That's a win for Ferrari. Harvey brings it home. Paul in P2. Wisburn finishing P3. Professor Zhu P4. Scientist P5. Nick crossing the line in P6 after staying out as soon as the safety car came out. Recovering, gaining track position. Ryan Van Doom P7. D'Acunha P8. Sebastian P10. Eskimo gains P9 because of penalties to Sebastian and Moshe. Durdan P12 on track onto Scari. And look at the gap between Eskimo and Sebastian. It's 17 thousandths because of penalties. But I think Eskimo doesn't care. It's P9 for him. He couldn't care less about the gap. So Durdan, last guy on track, coming up to Parabolica to finish this race in P12. Paul gets the Codemasters Driver of the Day. Oh, speaking of Driver of the Day, you are able, if you are a member in the community of the Scientist Reverse Grid League, you are able and allowed to vote for your personal Driver of the Day, which means the Codemasters Driver of the Day gets an extra championship point, and the Community Driver of the Day also gets an extra championship point. So it doesn't have to be the same driver that Codemasters chose. If you think Harvey defended that well for Ferrari and bring home that win for them, you can vote for him. If you think Wisburn or Sebastian did some good overtakes and deserve it, just go for it. Whatever driver you like, you can vote for him, regardless the result. Oh yeah, and Paul did make up a few positions there from P16 up to P2. Fastest lap goes to Harvey at 22.3, only half a tenth or less than half a tenth quicker than Paul's fastest lap. So that is that for Monza. That's our result. We'll make a quick screenshot if the game lets us. Yeah, that was a last second call. And we will be back with our second race in beautiful Portimão in around 10 minutes. I will be off mic for the time in between, so just stay on the stream. It won't go down. Just a little break of 10 minutes. Welcome back everyone to our second race of the night here in the Scientist Reverse Grid League in the Einstein League. We are at Portimão and the weather is beautiful. Just a few clouds, but the sun is out. Of course a lot of shadow because of the grandstand. Third on is your Sebastian, Eskimo, Ticunia, Ryan Van Doom, Nick, Scientist, Professor Zoo, Wisben Paul, Harvey, Rob, Walter, Spooner, Casto and GMAC has joined us for the second race after he missed out on Monza. He's also a reserve driver just like Harvey. And as always we will have the full track map on so you can follow your favorite driver. We will also have a look at the telemetry so we can see how much ERS is left with the boys. And then all the other stats that are coming through, like position changes, pit stops, the tire choice, and the penalties, of course. So most of the guys are starting on softs. Top 5 all on softs. Ryan Van Doom the first one on mediums, and then Zoo and Wisburn completing the top 10 on mediums. Castor and GMAC at the back also mediums. Everyone else is starting on softs. So we had a proper mad track tonight here because Portimão is really tricky to drive. A lot of elevation, which means a lot of traction zones. You have to mount, you have to dominate, otherwise this track will give you the payback. Third on after a quick formation lap. There's a big gap to all the guys at the back. Moshe and Sebastian following in P2 and P3 with another big gap to Eskimo and the rest behind. And Harvey left a little bit of space. Rob did too. But at the end of the day, they will all start from their grip positions, so nothing's changing here. Turn 1 will be, I'm leaning myself out of the window, a very nasty one. Because even on fucking time trial, it's really tricky. So if you have to race in a league race, and this turn 1, the whole pack behind you, it's a little bit of pressure coming down. Talking of pressure, we will have the race start any second. We have 3, 4, 5 red lights going out right now. The start is on. Moshe has a good start, but losing it against Durdan. Turn 1, let's see what happens here. A few guys running wide. Ryan Van Doom gets spun round, or maybe spun on the curb. We couldn't catch that. Few people running wide into turn 2 just to make it, but no major crashes, no DNF until now. Heartbreaking zone. Wisben overtaking his teammate Eskimo for P6. Oh, and someone's gone down the order. It's Rob. Rob had a little wiggle there. He is down to P16. Right behind him now, Ryan Van Doom. Good for Ryan Van Doom as he had clean air for the whole first sector, even though losing some places. And seconds, Scientist and Walterby going at each other. But I think Scientist, he's not even connected. Oh, right, Roy Harvey. Roy Harvey. Has a few issues. I think he has wing damage. He's turning in a lot. It looks like wing damage to me. It is. Right side of the wing, the end plate is missing. That means he will come into the pits right now. He is on soft tires. So he will change for mediums now, going down the inside. Oh, someone else following him. No, that was probably a glitch. Rob is behind him now, who also maybe got damage from that. Oh, Nick is going down the order. Down to P13. Eskimo re-overtook his teammate Wisben. And Paul is really close to Wisben now, but deciding to back off for the moment. The Red Bulls in formation through turn 5, I think it is. Eskimo letting Wisben go, staying on the inside against Paul. hitting the rear of Wisburn, and on the exit Wisburn spins. Eskimo also gone. Loses his wing, so that's pretty fucked up for Red Bull to say the least. Saw another unplayed virtual safety car. That's what I meant talking about these traction zones. You can lose it any time. Ryan Van Doom up to P12 now. Moshe in the lead ahead of D'Cunha and Durdon in P3. Sebastian P4. Then we have 3 medium runners in Professor Zoo, Castro and GMF. Let's see if anyone comes in for pit stop. But doesn't seem like it. And of course they all have to respect the delta. 2 guys in the pits. It's Paul and Nick, and it's green flags again. I think there are no drive-through penalties. Nope, they're not. Durdon with 3 and Ryan Van Doom with 3 seconds. And Moshe in P1, 1.4 seconds ahead of D'Cunha, so D'Cunha won't have the DRS on him for now. Durdon P3. On him is Sebastian around a second, and Professor Zoo is pressurizing Sebastian here. Oi, oi, Durdon just send it and spun. It's going down the order right now. Ryan Van Doom with another 3-second time penalty. And now D'Cunha has a 2.5 second gap to P3, which will help him a lot, of course. Wisburn climbing up the rankings again. P9 for him. Eskimo has pitted after he crashed into the wall. Sebastian under attack from Professor Zoo. Already side by side. DRS will help Professor Zoo to overtake Sebastian. Castor also behind with the help of DRS, but not close enough to overtake his teammate here. Yeah, that was pretty nasty. Castor, he just took P3 from Sebastian and Zoo, and Sebastian is now defending from Professor Zoo. That was sweet and nicely done by both Alpines. They are in P3 and P4. Professor Zoo is in P5, and Sebastian is trying to hold him behind to give Castor a big enough gap to Zoo so he can't attack him, and Castor can make up some points in the championship. While all that happened, D'Cunha increased the gap to P3 by another second. That's 3.4 now. Harvey and Nick changing places. They're probably battling. We're switching onto that. Yeah, very close together. Nick right behind Harvey, and Paul also right behind both of them. Rob is also in the mix. Ay, ay, ay. Was a little bit too eager by Nick, maybe? Or he just tried to go side by side and randomly touch the rear tire of Harvey. It's a nasty corner. You have to be very careful there, and unfortunately Nick felt it, which means he is down to P16 now after a little spinalla. The gap between Moshe and D'Cunha increased up to 1.9 seconds. And the gap to Castor in P3 is coming down. That was a big tank slapper. Sector 3, yellow flags. There's a car off. It's Nick. Nick is out of the race. Yellow flags, no safety car yet. Let's see what happens here. Still yellow flags. And D'Cunha is closing the gap to Moshe now a little bit. Gap to Castor's also coming down. Oh, yellow flag sector 2. That's a Mercedes. That's probably Rob. Yeah, he had a little spin. Green flags again, so nothing to worry about here. Moshe already down on ERS. 3%. That's not a lot. D'Cunha with around 50%. Castor the same. Sebastian down on ERS. And Zoo around 25. Sector 2, Sector 3, yellow flags. It's McLaren, it is Paul, and Paul is out. Let's see where he is. We are... Oh! We skipped through it. Safety car! It's a full course safety car. Who would have thought that? And Moshe in P1 right now is just at the beginning of Sector 2. Eskimo, the one together with Rob, who are the closest to the pits. Oh, Harvey was the closest because he's pitting right now. Rob also coming in. Eskimo coming around the last few corners here. And he will also probably pit. Let's see on which tires they jump. It's softs for Harvey and it's mediums for Rob. So different strategies. Eskimo has to slow down a little bit to not violate the delta and get a drive through. Just go into the pits very slowly, not to risk a penalty here. Scientist still ghosted, so he's not back in the lobby. And your leader, Moshe, is pitting now to Cunha and Castro too. So P1 and P2 are softs, they go on mediums. No way around that. But what does Castro do? 5 seconds for Zoo and Sebastian, who collided at the pit entry. That will be something to look at. Maybe Professor Zoo has to change his wing as a result of that. That would be unfortunate. There's no wing change. Okay, but... yeah, Sebastian just stays ahead of Professor Zoo. So, it's no place gained here. And Scientist AI is now in P4 because he didn't pit. So, nothing really changed here, as I think everyone is in the pits right now. Scientist the only one who's staying out, but his car's ghosted. Is this AI driving? Everyone else have pitted. So let's take a look at the new tire situation. Moshe and Ticunia in the lead are now on mediums. Castro is on softs. We exclude Scientist now because he still has to pit and he's not in his car. Sebastian on fresh mediums. Professor Zoo on fresh softs. Scientist and Sebastian doing a little overtake battle here. Don't do that. Professor Zoo on fresh softs. Behind him, Walter and Spoon on fresh mediums. Wisbin and GMAC on fresh softs. Then again, mediums for Duradon, softs for Ryan, Doom and Harvey. And then Rob on mediums, as we've seen at Eskimo on fresh soft tires. Safety car will stay out for another lap, which means the race will continue with the start of lap 9, which means we have 9 laps to go as soon as the safety car is back into the pits, and that's a number which will amuse a lot of those soft runs. So Sebastian keeps overtaking Scientist and giving him the place back. By doing that, he brakes very hard to give him the place back, and Professor Z has to be really careful not to clip Sebastian's rear end. That will give him a penalty at least, and maybe damage too, which probably won't be his attention here. Nice camera angle on turn 5, I think it is. So Scientist's AI has just spun, and he's back down in P13 now. Some really weird things happening here on board with Scientist. I don't know if it still is AI, but yeah, we couldn't care less for the moment. Moshe is your leader on mediums together with Da Cunha. The safety car will come in on this lap. So Moshe is the one who's dictating the pace and leading the pack up to turn 1. He's still very close behind the safety car, which means there will be a lot of slow cars on the main straight. And now he's accelerating. Oh, and he's braking. Oh, the game forced him to brake. But while doing that, Castro gained P2 from Da Cunha. So, there, or if he was forced to do it, Sebastian overtaking Da Cunha. Oh, it's gone down the inside again to take him back. Making the corner, leaving him enough space. Next left-hander, nicely done by both of them. Really good racing. G-Mac overtook Spooner for P8. And Castro is already in the lead. Just overtook Moshe. On fresh softs, he has the bigger advantage. And G-Mac and Spooner still fighting for the position. Oh, G-Mac almost losing the car. And Harvey going for the overtake against Spooner, making it work also on fresh softs. And he's flying at the moment. The gap between Castro and Moshe is already 1.1 seconds. So no chance of DRS at the moment for Moshe as soon as it's enabled. And Zhu is getting closer to Sebastian, who has the double slipstream of him and Da Cunha in P3, who's staying on the inside line. Sebastian diving down the inside, which results in a spin for him after he changed directions rapidly behind Da Cunha. And turn 1 is a really nasty overtaking spot. There's no room to go side by side, to be honest. And when G-Mac lost it too. He's down to P13 now, so Spooner has a bit of breathing space. And Harvey and Ryan Van Doom just overtook Spooner at a moment here. Rob up to P9. A lot of position changes now. Wisburn just overtook Professor Zhu. He's also on softs. And he's now coming for Da Cunha and Moshe. He has to hurry up to get all the guys behind him out of the DRS. And Harvey is flying up to P5. He was in P10 one lap ago. Walter B P6. I think Professor Zhu has damage. He has a problem. He's losing places all over. He's now in P10. Maybe he clipped Sebastian's car when he spun. 3 seconds for Castro. That could be interesting, looking at the end of the race. But let's see. Yeah, Professor Zhu is slowing down. He has damage to his wing. He's coming in. That means P10 for Eskimo now. So Professor Zhu in the pits. Sebastian also. He probably also has wing damage. And Scientist 8. I think Scientist back in his car. He's now P14, also pitting because he still had to do. Castro's gap to Moshe is now up to 1.9 seconds. But he has a 3-second time penalty, so he still has to push. Castro pushing really hard, just made up half a second on Moshe within one sector. Da Cunha still in P3. Wisburn is closing the gap, but Wisburn has some pressure from Harvey in P5. He is, as Wisburn, on fresh soft, and he's really close behind him. And he, of course, will have the DRS on Wisburn. Jumping on board with Harvey. Going for the overtake. Probably an easy one with the help of DRS. It's really powerful. Yeah, and he's in P4. coming down into turn 1. And now he's on a hunt. He's coming first for his teammate, and then for Moshe. And then maybe for Casto too. Especially with the 3-second time penalty here. Oh, yellow flag sector 1. That was Rob, I think. Yeah, he just lost the position to GMAC, P11 for Rob. And Casto leading at the moment comfortably, 3.5 seconds. Ahead of Moshe, already out of the penalties. Cunha still P3 and now has his teammate behind, I think. They won't fight hard for the position. Cunha is on mediums, Harvey on softs. Will be probably an easy overtake. And GMAC has spun again in sector 2. And another one, Sebastian, is also gone. Well, not gone DNF, but just spun. Yellow flags, but no safety car at the moment. And there will be green flags in a few seconds. While Harvey is just 4.5 tenths behind Cunha, using ERS. Now we'll have the DRS. And Cunha is going to the inside, but I think there's no real reason to fight his teammate here. P3 for Harvey and another fastest lap. And he's getting closer to Moshe now. If he can overtake Moshe at the beginning of lap 14 with the help of DRS, he has a real chance to win that race too after Monza and just gain those needed 3 seconds that Castro has to his name and finish P1. But it's not over yet, of course. The gap is now 4.9 seconds to Castro. Let's see what happens here. We still have 4.5 laps to go. Everyone's pretty low on ERS at the moment. Oh, Harvey coming really close to Moshe. Almost damaging his wing. Professor Zoo just overtook Durdan for P12. And now Harvey has Moshe right in front of him. He's a sitting duck because he has no ERS left. And Harvey has the DRS. Easy overtake for Harvey. P2 for him. The gap to Casto, 5 seconds. He needs to close it to get P1 here. 3-second time penalty to Casto's name at the moment. And he's already starting to close it. 3 tenths down. Purple sectors all over. Casto really has to push to stay in the lead. Wisben now pretty close to Cunha. He's also on softs. Cunha still on mediums, of course. Let's have a quick look at the penalties. 3 to Castle's name, 6 for Ryan Vadum, 6 for Rob, and 6 for Durnan at the moment. We just stay on the penalties to have a better look at the final results in the end, to count it up, and the gap between Castle and Harvey stays around 4.7 for the moment. Moshe is out of the DRS of Harvey, which helps him a lot to not defend it, but Wisben is now coming for the overtake against Cunha, and he makes it work with the help of DRS, of course. That was a good overtake, clean, no touching there by both guys. Oh! Cunha coming down the inside! Wow, almost losing his car. Now up the hill, he has the DRS now. But Wisben has a little bit more ERS to defend. And Cunha staying behind because the gap was too big to go for a dive here. Good thing for Cunha is he has a gap of 1.7 seconds to Walter. So it seems like that P5 is the position he goes for now. But you never know what happens with penalties and with tank slappers here, as you've seen. Harvey is now 4.6, 4.5 behind Castle, so the gap is not coming down by a lot, which will be a huge relief for Casto. Mosher now with 3-second time penalty. So that could be interesting. Looking at Wisben and Ticunia, sector 1, yellow flags. It's an Alpine. Could be Sebastian. It was Sebastian. So the 3 seconds to Mosher's name is an extra motivation for Wisben and Ticunia to close the gap a little bit, just to gain that extra place. And I was talking about Ticunia being safe from Walterby. Well, that was pretty much bullshit, because Walterby is just half a second behind Ticunia now. And he already has the DRS on him. Both on mediums. Let's see what happens here. This could be really, really close. Walterby with over 35% of ARS. Ticunia only with 13. That's a huge difference when it's coming down to DRS on the main straight. Yeah, Walterby is really close. Harvey with the 3-second time penalty. He closed the gap to 3.7 seconds and then gets a 3-second time penalty. And if nothing happens, that's a safe win for Casto. But I don't want to jinx it. Anything can happen. And Casto is now behind his teammate, who will give him DRS too. And he's moving out of the way. That's teamwork, how it should look. And jumping back to Walterby, who's now coming for Ticunia with DRS and ERS. Easy overtake. Look at the overspeed. It's huge. Yellow flag, sector 3, but already gone. We're back to green. And let's see if Ticunia can make something work here in the next DRS zone against Walterby. Well, Walter has still enough ERS to defend, and he makes it work. So P5 seems to be safe for Walter now, but keep in mind that we have a few penalties here. Mosher is the one who's close enough to Wisben and Walterby and Ticunia to gain places. So the times are unfortunately a little bit fucked. We just have to go for I position. Oh, and Wisben, he just goes for it. He doesn't want to have it on penalties. He wants to have it on track. Casto is crossing the finish line in P1 in Portimão. Harvey with a nice finish in P2. Wisben coming across the line in P3. Mosher P4 for the moment, but losing the position to Walter and Ticunia. Spooner stays behind, so P6 for Mosher, P7 for Spooner. Ryan Van Doom in P8. Let's see where Eskimo comes over the line. Oh, he's in front of Ryan Van Doom. Again, really close, but he gets P8. Ryan Van Doom down to P9. G-Mac in P10. Rob crossing the line in P11. Durdan in P12. Where is he right now? He's coming up to the penultimate corner. He has Professor Zhu behind him. 3 seconds. With the 9-second time penalty, Zhu will have him on penalties, which means P12 for Professor Zhu and P13 for Durdan in just a few seconds. And Scientist in P14, I think he's back in his car. P14 for Scientist and P15 for Sebastian, who's having a little nap on the main straight with just one tire attached to his front. So that was it here in Portimão. Your Colt Masters driver of the day is Casto, who started second to last, I think, and has won the race here in Portimão, which will give him a huge motivational boost, because Professor Zhu only finished P12. That's a huge result for him, coming back from the Monza DNF. Harvey finishing in P1 and P2 for Ferrari, which will give them a huge boost in the overall global constructor standings. And P3 for Wisben, who made some clinical moves on track. Here we have the final results. Casto finishing P1, Harvey P2, Wisbon P3, Walter B also gaining a lot of places up to P4, Ticunia P5, Moshe is in P6, Spooner finished P7, Eskimo P8, Ryan Van Doom in P9, GMAC completing the top 10, Rob in P11, Professor Zoo P12, Jordan P13, Scientist in P14, Sebastian P15, and Paul and Nick both DNF'd. So that is that for the night here in the Scientist Reverse Grid League, in the Einstein League. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for commenting and helping me a little bit out with my struggles. And I hope to see you next week when we are back with 2 more races in the Einstein League. I wish you a wonderful weekend. And of course, stay healthy and stay safe. Good night.